Hello, this is your old friend Ponytail Bob again here to tell another story. Um, this story I wrote about this story. It was it began it happened 60 years ago. It was an extremely traumatic event for me. I was 19. I was just so young. Extremely traumatic event that hit me so hard. But I dealt with it in a way that I didn't really know I was dealing with it. I dealt with it with a special kind of anger, that I gave a name to. So I wrote the story about what happened and what I felt, and today, all these years later, how I interpret that and what it means and what it has meant to me. So I call this story Healthy Anger. As a very immature young 18-year-old, I took the University of Michigan admissions test. By the way, that was back in the days when they didn't have all the formalized testing and stuff. No problem, I naively thought. Afterwards, I met with the admission counselor a couple weeks later. With no preliminaries, he hit me with these words, and I still remember them all these years later. He said, "Young man, you don't have the ability to go to the University of Michigan." I was blindsided. My world instantly shattered. This was a double whammy because my brother was already succeeding there. He was a year and a half older than me. He was succeeding. He was the white knight of the family. But I was kind of the black sheep. He was great at academics. I struggled mightily, thoroughly convinced that I was stupid. He was great at sports. I sucked. He was popular. He had a lot of friends. I had very few. He was 6'2" and 175 pounds, and I was 5'10" and 130. Mom used to tell me I was too skinny. Perfect storm for insecurity. When that counselor rejected me, I instantly concluded my brother would succeed and I wouldn't. I walked back to my car in a depressed daze. Driving home, tears overwhelmed me. Even though most 18-year-old boys would rather die than be caught crying, I didn't care. Somehow, however, during that drive home, my thoughts began to rearrange themselves. My profound feeling of failure and doom began to get replaced by anger. How could this man, who knew nothing about me other than a bunch of numbers, know I didn't have the ability to succeed? Who appointed him God? With that anger slowly came a resolve to prove him wrong. I thought back to the question I asked him after he rejected me. What am I going to do now? And he said, well, maybe you could go to a community college for a semester or two. By the time I got home and pulled into the driveway, I had decided to do just that. Only not just for a semester or two. My first and second semesters at Henry Ford Community College went very well. I got all A's and B's. I now had a successful academic track record. I reapplied, and guess what? For the next 3.5 years at the University of Michigan, I earned mostly A's and B's. I was so very proud to cross that stage for my diploma, a Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology from the University of Michigan. I do have to tell you that earning that diploma was incredibly difficult. I suffered with depression, anxiety, bipolar system isolation, and a fair share of substance abuse. Back in those days, there was really no help for those of us who lived in isolation of an emotional background. In spite of this, I was able to go on, get that degree, and earn a master's degree from Wayne State University. Healthy anger motivated me to prove that earlier prediction was grossly inadequate. As I look back today, so many years later, I've lived a lifetime of helping others who are challenged by trauma and or mental illness. My degree from the University of Michigan gave me the skills, credentials, and confidence to do that. Even today, I sometimes fantasize about meeting up with that academic counselor. One glance at my resume would show him how wrong and foolish he was. On the other hand, I would likely thank him for giving me the drive and motivation to accomplish much more than he predicted for me that morning. Probably I'd do both. So I say today, 3 cheers for the human spirit and for healthy anger. So that's my story, kind of how trauma sometimes can lead us to greater successes or fulfillment than we ever anticipated. And maybe even more importantly than healthy anger is that we don't have to accept the caustic aspersions or negativity cast upon us by others, which frequently happens in life, by others who have their own reasons for telling us that we can't succeed, like that, quote, counselor, unquote, told me that I didn't have the ability to do the work at the University of Michigan. We don't have to accept the limitations that others place on us for their own reasons, not ours. So if that has happened or does happen, maybe, just maybe, you can do what I did and what I said to myself that day. Said not to them, but to yourself, and that is, who appointed you, God? Think about that. Well, that's all for now. Ponytail Bob signing off with just one final thought, and that is, be kind to yourself.